Over the years, the gaming industry has evolved to become one of the most diverse art forms in the present day, with an evergreen amount of genres ranging from action-packed first-person shooters to humble tower defense games. But one genre stands out above the rest: open-world games. Open-world games can be traced back to as early as the 1970s, when gaming consoles massively overtook arcade machines. Developers went from creating fast-paced games that were meant to rake in as many quarters as they could, to games that would be enjoyed as a leisurely activity in the comfort of one's home. The first ever truly open-world game was Colossal Cave Adventure. Developed by William Crowther in Boston 1975, after suffering from a divorce, he wanted to bring together his daughters in remembering their trips to the rocky areas that they had visited. Although it never had much to offer around the world, it allowed the player to freely explore the text adventure. In the year 1983, Elite, a space trading game, took the world by storm. With its open-ended game model, revolutionary wireframe 3D graphics, and the use of hidden line removal, the game could be ported to virtually every contemporary home computer system. But the main reason Elite was truly profound was because it presented a game, world space, and freedom of movement that felt boundless. One could say this game stamped the idea of the open-world genre into the industry. As a new generation was ushered in, the youth took to games to express their feelings and emotions. As a result, sandbox games began to grow in popularity. Games such as the famous 1986 Zelda allowed the player to complete missions in any order, with only a few areas in the overworld requiring certain items to access. Nintendo began to dwell more in the open world genre, and with the release of Super Mario 64, not only did they successfully adapt 3D graphics to the platformer, but they redefined what open world games should feel like, rewarding the player with an array of secrets and collectibles for exploring the map. As open world and sandbox games started to gain traction, different genres began to adapt freedom into their games, allowing the player to mess around with the world that they built. Not only did players enjoy the freedom present in these games, but developers too. Coming from developing very linear games with a set of predefined sequences that players will always follow, these type of games allow developers to create engines to express upper level gameplay concepts. This meant that developers could spend more time creating the world rather than the definitive storyline, resulting in larger, more beautifully detailed games. As the 20th century ended, open-world games became a staple addition in every gamer's collection. With the release of The Sims in the following year, Grand Theft Auto 3, a new development in open-world games was found. Many games before gave the player freedom to explore vast worlds, but none had ever delved into accompanying these vast worlds with a sense of responsiveness to player experimentation. While The Sims introduced complex AI interactions between computer and player, GTA 3 placed the player in a buzzing city where the character revolved around the city and not vice versa. One of the easiest ways to immerse a player in a game is to make it as realistic as possible. This could be done through effective psychological programming such as AI. In The Sims, the player no longer explored areas of a vast map, but instead played with the automated systems, watching NPC AI characters react to their inputs. The sense of interactivity with endless possibilities led to many praising The Sims as a true open-world game. Not everyone was into the playstyle of games such as The Sims though, and so eventually turned over to Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto. Selling more than 5 million copies, it was one of the most successful games, and developers took notice of that. They began to copy Rockstar's model of open worlds that presented the opportunity to capture a new niche. A city or state scale sandbox with a multitude of weapons, giving the player an excuse to cause havoc. And with this model rose two game-changing titles, Saints Row and Just Cause. Instead of trying to recreate a world like GTA, Saints Row and Just Cause's developers decided to take a top-down approach, a city-scale map but with insane mechanics. With a very minuscule boundary between insanity and overemphasized satire, Saints Row and Just Cause were made to make the player laugh, to enjoy themselves while they lose track of time doing foolish stuff. These games, although not as successful as GTA, brought about a form of entertainment people thought they never needed. As developers began to create vast landscapes for the players to explore, one producer stood out from the rest. Being one of the first producers to involve real-life history in their game, Ubisoft placed the player in 12th century Israel and Palestine. Its open world was so detailed and lively that players were often surprised by just standing still. By taking the realism factor of the Sims AI and advanced graphics, they achieved a realism never seen before. But the most memorable factor in Assassin's Creed was its movement system. Unlike other games which often marked out areas that the character could vault to, Assassin's Creed's streets were carefully designed so that nearly every crevice, pillar, and ledge could be vaulted on. There's propelled movement mechanics that would later be seen in nearly every game made. Although Assassin's Creed was an open-world game, the storyline of the campaign captures the skills you acquire from roaming the world, while subconsciously teaching its players about history through a video game, an idea that is now considered the forefront of gaming. On the other end of the spectrum were simulators, one of the most powerful inventions in the gaming industry. Instead of trying to create a realistic sandbox for players to wreak havoc and destroy like its counterparts, simulators focus on creating specific actions that were true to real life. Although first used by the military to train pilots, the genre quickly expanded to various other areas like farming. Having sold nearly 200 million copies, Minecraft has dominated the gaming scene far better than anyone could have thought of. Released to the public in November 2011, the game coexists around three factors: mine, build, and survive. In a world of action and complex puzzles, Minecraft offered simple, easy-to-master controls. This made the game very enjoyable by children and the elderly, as they wouldn't have to understand complex mechanics like in the other games. Mods have been one of the most direct ways to allow players to truly express their creativity. From the front end of the game to the back end of the game, Minecraft's simplicity gave members of the community so much open room for additions that it became a staple of the game. As sandbox and open world games continue to dominate the gaming world, one could only imagine what possibilities await us in the future. Will it lead to AI so advanced that it is undistinguishable from real humans? Will it push the ability to bring out emotions even further? With virtual reality slowly getting better, it won't be a long time till you can live in a whole different life through games.